Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions. The mystery of the Cottingley Fairies, how two girls fooled the world, including Sherlock Holmes Creator, with cardboard cutouts. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In the summer of 1917, two young girls, cousins Frances Griffiths, age 9, and Elsie Wright, age 16, borrowed Frances's father's camera and took photographs in the Beck stream behind the Wright family home in Cottingley, a village in West Yorkshire, England. The photographs appeared to show the girls playing with small winged fairies, delicate creatures, clearly visible, interacting with the girls in a woodland setting. The photographs were shown to an officer of the Theosophical Society, who published them in the Theosophical Society's journal. And then Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, the world's most famous fictional rationalist, saw them and declared them genuine. Conan Doyle was, at this point in his life, deeply committed to spiritualism, the belief that the spirits of the dead could communicate with the living, and was one of the most prominent advocates for paranormal phenomena in Britain. His endorsement of the Cottingley Fairy photographs, published in the Christmas 1920 issue of the Strand magazine, was a sensation. The creator of the world's greatest fictional detective believed in fairies photographed by two Yorkshire schoolgirls. The photographs were examined by experts, including photographer experts at Kodak, who could find no evidence of fraud. Sir Arthur sent the two girls more photographic supplies and asked for more photographs. They obliged, producing 3 more fairy photographs. The photographs were eventually exposed as fraudulent in 1983, when Frances and Elsie, by then elderly women, admitted in interviews that the fairies were paper cutouts taken from Princess Mary's gift book, 1914, propped up with pins in the vegetation. They had used them as props and been astonished when the adult world took them seriously, and had been too embarrassed to admit the deception as it escalated beyond their control. Remarkably, Frances maintained until her death in 1986 that the 5th and final photograph, the most naturalistic of the series, was genuine, not a cutout. Whatever the truth of that claim, the Cottingley story remains one of the most charming and revealing hoaxes in history. A story about what adults want to see, and about how the desire to believe can override the analytical mind, even of the man who created the world's greatest rational detective. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we go further, if you are finding this investigation compelling, please take a moment right now to like this video, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and share it with someone who loves a good historical mystery. If you are watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new episode. If you found us through Facebook, tap follow on our page. It takes just a few seconds, and it genuinely helps us keep making these documentaries. Now, let us get back to the investigation. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the landscape of modern documented mysteries, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Human perception is fallible. This is not an insult, it is neuroscience. The brain does not passively record reality, it actively constructs it, filling gaps with expectation, inferring causes from insufficient data, and storing memories that are reshaped by subsequent experience. Eyewitness testimony is the weakest form of courtroom evidence, precisely because what people see and what actually happened frequently diverge. Sound can cause visual hallucinations. Infrasound at specific frequencies can produce feelings of dread, the sensation of a presence, and even visual disturbances. Sleep deprivation, stress, and hypoxia can generate vivid experiences indistinguishable from waking reality. All of this is relevant when evaluating modern mysteries. Many apparently anomalous experiences have prosaic explanations rooted in human neurology, temporal lobe activity, hypnagogic hallucinations, shared social expectation shaping perception. A willingness to consider these explanations is not dismissiveness, it is intellectual hygiene. The brain is capable of generating extraordinarily convincing experiences that have no external cause, and yet, the perceptual explanation has its limits. It cannot account for physical evidence, radiation burns, landing traces, electromagnetic interference on electronic equipment, or anomalous readings on calibrated instruments. When multiple independent witnesses, separated by distance, report identical details, mass hallucination strains credulity. When physical measurements corroborate subjective experience, the neurological explanation is insufficient. These are the cases that demand another look. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Cottingley Fairies, how two girls fooled the world, including Sherlock Holmes Creator, with cardboard cutouts is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The 5 Cottingley photographs were taken in 2 sessions. 2 photographs in July 1917 by Elsie using her father's Midge quarter-plate camera, and 3 photographs in August 1920 after Conan Doyle and the Theosophical Society provided the girls with quality cameras and plates. The photographs show Frances with 4 dancing fairies, July 1917, Elsie with a gnome, July 1917, Frances with fairy leaping toward her, August 1920, Elsie with fairy offering bouquet, August 1920, and the fairy bower, the mysterious 5th photograph showing fairies apparently undisturbed by human presence, August 1920. The first 4 photographs use figures cut from Princess Mary's gift book. The 5th uses a different figure source or is, as Frances claimed, genuine. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen. Instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered Arthur Conan Doyle, 1859–1930, was by 1921 of the world's most prominent spiritualists, a position he had taken in reaction to the loss of his son and his brother to World War I. He had attended seances, communicated with what he believed were spirits of the dead, and written extensively on spiritual matters. His 1922 book, The Coming of the Fairies, presented the Cottingley photographs as genuine evidence of fairy existence and dedicated considerable space to the photographic analysis supporting their authenticity. The book was both a genuine embarrassment to his reputation and a significant contribution to the Cottingley story's cultural impact. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine the expert analysis of the photographs at the time of the controversy, failed to expose them for reasons that reflect the limitations of photographic expertise in 1920. Kodak photographers examined the original glass plates and, while unwilling to certify them as genuine, could find no specific evidence of double exposure, retouching, or the other forms of photographic manipulation they knew to look for. The paper cutout technique, in which three-dimensional appearing images in the photographs are actually flat objects photographed in focus through depth of field effects, was not a form of manipulation they specifically tested for. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation, but the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, Edward Gardner, the Theosophical Society officer who originally brought the photographs to prominence, was instrumental in the story's expansion. Gardner arranged for expert analysis of the photographs, provided Elsie and Frances with high-quality cameras for the 1920 session, and facilitated the connection with Conan Doyle. He remained convinced of the photograph's authenticity until his death in 1970, long after most evidence pointed to fraud. His sustained belief, shared with other educated theosophists, is itself evidence of the degree to which personal commitment to a belief system can maintain conviction against accumulating counter-evidence. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of Frances Griffiths' claim that the fifth photograph, Fairies and Their Sunbath, August 1920, was a genuine photograph of real fairies, made publicly in 1983 after she had admitted the first four were fake, has never been definitively resolved. The fifth photograph is compositionally different from the others. The fairies are less clearly posed, the setting appears more natural, and the overall impression is less like a staged photograph of paper cutouts. Several researchers have proposed that Frances, who maintained this distinction throughout the remainder of her life, was telling the truth about the fifth photograph being different from the others, though what different means and what she might have photographed if not paper cutouts remains unexplained. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. The Cottingley photographs were officially exposed in 1981-1983 through the collaboration of two separate investigations. Geoffrey Crawley's Technical Photographic Analysis, published in the British Journal of Photography, 1982-83, which identified the Princess Mary's gift book source for the fairy figures, and James Randi's investigations, which helped prompt the women to make their admission. The figures in the Cottingley photographs match figures in the fairy feller's masterstroke and Cole's children from Princess Mary's gift book, with sufficient precision that the identification was considered definitive. Frances and Elsie confirmed the identification when it was presented to them. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Cardboard Fairies. How two girls fooled the world, including Sherlock Holmes Creator, with Cardboard Cutouts. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the complete hoax theory holds that all 5 Cottingley photographs are fabrications using paper cutouts, and that Frances's claim about the genuineness of the 5th photograph was either a sentimental fantasy, a desire to maintain some mystery, or an attempt to retain some dignity after the full exposure of the deception. Under this model, the 5th photograph uses figures from a different source, not yet identified, and was photographed with the same paper cutout technique as the first 4, but appears different because it was photographed with a more naturalistic compositional approach. The consistency of the admission for the first 4 photographs and the exceptional nature of the 5th is attributed to the emotional significance of the 5th to Frances. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the partial belief theory, held by some researchers sympathetic to the girls, proposes that Elsie was the primary organizer and artistic force behind the hoax, as the older girl with artistic training, while Frances had a more ambiguous relationship with it. Frances genuinely believed in fairies or something, and was partly trying to photograph real experiences while also partly participating in a staged setup. Under this model, the 5th photograph might represent a more genuine attempt by Frances to photograph something she actually believed she was seeing, even if what she photographed was not objectively real. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the social escalation theory focuses on the sociology of the hoax. 2 girls made paper cutout photographs as a prank or play, showed them to adults who took them seriously, and then found themselves trapped by the consequences of adult credulity, unable to admit the deception without disappointing and embarrassing the adults who had invested in the photographs, including, eventually, a world-famous author. They continued the deception through subsequent sessions. Under this model, the girls' primary motive was not celebrity or commercial gain, but the impossibility of disillusioning people who so desperately wanted to believe in something beautiful. The escalation from family prank to international media event occurred through adult enthusiasm, not the girls' initiative. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Cardboard Fairies, how 2 girls fooled the world, including Sherlock Holmes' Creator, with cardboard cutouts, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes The identification of the fairy figures in the Cottingley photographs as figures taken from plates in Princess Mary's Gift Book, 1914, made by Geoffrey Crawley in 1982, is the definitive physical evidence for the paper cutout explanation. Crawley showed that the fairy fellows figures in the book, illustrations for Andrew Lang's poem A Spell for a Fairy, match the fairy figures in the first Cottingley photograph precisely, including minor details of the figures' postures and proportions. The match is too close to be coincidental, and the book was a common household possession in the Wright family's period and social class. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented Frances and Elsie's own admissions in 1981-1983, given in interviews to Joe Cooper, whose research was published in the Unexplained magazine, and later in the book, The Case of the Cottingley Fairies, are the testimonial confirmation of the paper cutout explanation. Both women confirmed that the fairy figures in the first 4 photographs were paper cutouts pinned in the vegetation with hat pins, and both confirmed that they had been surprised by the adult response and had felt increasingly unable to retract the deception as it escalated. The admission, given late in life with no apparent commercial motivation, is consistent with a genuine delayed disclosure. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed photographic analysis of the original glass plates, conducted with modern equipment by researchers including Crawley, confirms the two-dimensional nature of the fairy figures in the photographs. Depth of field analysis shows that the fairy figures and the background vegetation are at the same focal plane, which would not be the case if the fairies were small three-dimensional beings close to the camera, while the vegetation was several feet behind them. The flat focus profile of the fairy figures is consistent with paper cutouts placed among the vegetation rather than with small three-dimensional beings. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Cottingley Fairies, how 2 girls fooled the world, including Sherlock Holmes Creator, with cardboard cutouts. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Cottingley Fairies story has been dramatized multiple times, most notably in the 1997 film Fairy Tale, a true story directed by Charles Sturridge, and the 2016 short film The Cottingley Fairies. The photographs are held by the National Media Museum in Bradford, which is geographically close to Cottingley, and are regularly displayed as a case study in photographic history and the psychology of belief. The enduring cultural appeal of the Cottingley story reflects the poignancy of its central situation. 2 girls who made a simple, playful deception, and were trapped by the world's desire to believe in something magical. Arthur Conan Doyle's involvement adds a layer of irony that keeps the story alive. The creator of the world's most famous rationalist detective, brought low by his desperate need to believe in the supernatural. The story is taught in media literacy contexts as an example of confirmation bias, how the desperate desire to believe something true can prevent even intelligent people from seeing obvious fraud. And Frances's unretracted claim about the fifth photograph leaves just enough uncertainty to keep the story genuinely alive. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Cottingley Fairies, how two girls fooled the world, including Sherlock Holmes Creator, with cardboard cutouts, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Cottingley Fairies ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle, it is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process, and the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please help us reach more people. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new documentary. If you are watching on Facebook, tap the follow button on our page to stay connected. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.